Welcome to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 20, The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
This is Tyson.
In this episode, we are going to take a deep dive on Journeys in Middle-earth, and we're going to talk about a lot of Lord of the Rings games that we've been playing lately. One of the reasons we obviously wanted to do this was because of the new Amazon Rings of Power show that has recently come out. Thoughts so far?
I've seen about 20 minutes of it, so I have no thoughts. What I've seen seems pretty good.
And I've watched both episodes, and I am in the camp that I'm enjoying this so far.
I have also watched both episodes. I'm not sure we're actually on Middle-earth, but I will continue watching the show.
That's a glowing endorsement if ever I heard one.
I can tell you love it.
I don't want to spoil anything for any of the potential listeners out there or for Kevin. So I'm gonna zip it for now.
I think it's safe to say that all of us, to some extent, are Lord of the Rings fans.
Lord of the Frings fans.
Lord of the Rings fans are pretty good too.
Right.
It was deliberate.
No, but we love the Peter Jackson, movies and the Hobbit movies.
They're
for the most part, the Hobbit
pretty
movies.
good. It was a little extended.
Yeah.
I've watched the old cartoons, the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit.
Oh, I loved those as a kid.
And I can sing some of those songs just as well as some of those hobbits could, which was not very well, or the dwarves. They were my favorites. But I think we're all fans of Lord of the Rings to some extent here. I've read The Hobbit a couple of times. I've read the first and the second book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I never finished the trilogy outright. Ooh. I know that may be blaspheme, but
I don't think so.
I think I may be in the same boat. I'm pretty sure I finished the first two, and I don't know if I got to the third one. I can't remember. It's been the books have been out for a while, so I read them a long time ago.
So I read The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and I recently did The Silmarillion, and I just recently also purchased Barian and Luthien, I think it's called. It's another deeper dive into a story from the Silmarillion. But more than anything, Rings of Power has made me want to consume a ton of Middle-earth content, whether it's playing Shadows of War on the Xbox, watching the old movies, getting back into some of the books. Yep, so at the very least, it's been a catalyst for that for me.
Yeah, I'm halfway through the extended version of the Fellowship of the Ring, and it holds up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still just as entertaining as it always was. It's just amazing. And we recently bought the audio versions with is it Andy Serkis that narrates?
Yes. Yeah.
And I kind of want to start listening to the books.
See, and maybe that's what I should do as well. I ended up watching. I had a flight from Denver to Nashville, which just so happened to be almost exactly the amount of time it took to watch the Fellowship of the Ring. In fact, I pulled up to my gate right as the end credits rolled, and so it was perfect. So I got to watch the whole Fellowship, but I haven't recently watched the latter two movies, which, just like you, Tyler, Rings of Power has made me want to consume more content. I did play Shadows of Mordor, and I loved that. It taught me about different things in Lord of the Rings that I wasn't aware of, and I think that's kind of I like getting more experiences of Middle-earth. So with the Rings of Power show, it's more experiences in Middle-earth for me. Whether or not they're fully accurate is a whole nother question, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far.
And lucky for us, there are some pretty good board games that are around Lord of the Rings, which I've enjoyed playing those. We've obviously, preparing for this episode, we played quite a few Lord of the Rings themed board games. Some good, some not as good, which we'll talk about, right? But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been.
Like diving into that world.
And at times
right?
tedious.
And at times tedious. Foreshadowing, we'll get to that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun for sure.
Awesome. Well, let's get started.
So it begins.
All right, so a game that I've been playing is the Lord of the Rings LCG. So this game is designed by Nate French, and it is published by Fantasy Flight Games. So the Lord of the Rings LCG, it's a pretty old game at this point. It came out in 2011. It's one of the first games that was really branded as an LCG, I think, by Fantasy Flight. And for those that don't know what an LCG is, it's what they call a living card game. And this differentiates it from a CCG, a collectible card game. So most people know what a CCG is. You're opening blind booster packs. You don't know what you're going to get. An LCG, it has a lot of different expansions that come along with it. But you know what you're going to get, right? So for the Lord of the Rings living card game, you have the base box, you get expansions, and you basically just get more of what's in the base box. So the way this game works is it's a cooperative game. It can play from 1 to 4. And you are building a group of heroes to go fight nasty things in Middle-earth, right?
Nasty things.
Exactly. And it's funny that the first cycle is I think it's the Shadows of Mirkwood cycle. I may be getting that wrong, but it's all about Gollum, right? And you're trying to hunt for Gollum and capture him, which is pretty cool. So I played this a few days ago. We played one of those. So one of those expansions. So what you do in the game is you get a group of heroes. You get 3 heroes. And then you build a deck. And there's 4 different spheres that you can put into your deck. And each hero has a sphere. So the different spheres are leadership, lore, spirit, and tactics. So you have a bunch of cards that are available, and you build a deck based on what spheres your heroes are. And the deck typically is 50. If you're playing like tournament rules, you got 50 cards or more in your deck. And then you use that deck to play the game. So there's an encounter deck that you have, which is all the nasty stuff. And the way that the turns work is, you draw a card, and then you quest. And you're trying to quest through this objective deck. And that's when you get through the objective deck, if you get through the whole thing, you win. So you quest. You try to get through that. You flip over encounter cards. Encounter cards are going to be enemies, locations, just bad stuff that happens. And you have what's kind of unique and I haven't seen before is a staging area. So these cards go to a staging area. They have a threat value. If you quest and you don't meet the threat value, then you take additional threat. And if you get to 50, you die. If you successfully quest, which means you have more quest value than the threat value in the staging area, then you quest on the objective. Once you get through an objective card, you flip to the next card. Once you get through that card, however many cards there are in the objective, when you get to the last one, you win. That's a very simplified version. So the staging area, there's monsters that come attack you. If you reach their threat limit, they can attack, whoever is playing the game. They do all sorts of hard things. They have these cards that get placed on them that you flip over. And if there's a shadow text on there, they do additional things. Sometimes there's not shadow text. So if you get through the objective deck, you win. If your heroes die, you lose. If the threat gets too high, you lose. There's a lot of ways to lose, and it's really easy to lose. But it's a lot of fun. Some reasons why I love this game.
It's because you like losing.
Well, that's one of the things that's hard about this game is that it's really tough. And it can be
brutal.
It can be brutal and it can be frustrating.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
But it's fun to play through because it's so thematic. And that's one of the things I love about it. Like getting it out after not playing it for a while, I was reminded about how thematic it is and how fun it is when you actually get your deck to work well and you beat the scenario. We won the first scenario we played. We played 2. The second scenario just beat us down, but it was still a fun experience. I love this game. I think it's a lot of fun.
So I bought the revised core set earlier in the year, and I've played it 4 or 5 times, and it is a lot of fun. It's very difficult. The only other really LCG that I've played is Marvel Champions. And I think I prefer the Lord of the Rings one over Marvel Champions. I like that you control multiple heroes, whereas in Marvel Champions, it's usually just one. And I like the staging area. That's cool. I like the theme way more than I do Marvel. So yeah, this is an awesome game. It's a little brutal, but it's a good time.
Yeah, and there's really no better time to jump into it because, like you said, they just released a revised version. It's a lot better than the version I have because out of the box you can play 4 players. The one I have, out of the box, you can only play 2. It didn't give you a full, complete set of cards. If you wanted, because you can include 3 of the same card in a deck, and some of the best cards only had 2. So if you wanted to be able to put all 3, you had to buy 2 core sets. That is terrible. It just annoyed the heck out of me. But they've, the new version fixed that. It also adds some campaign rules where you can. I haven't played this yet, but I know that you can, get cards that will be in your deck on future turns through the campaign, which is kind of cool. And that wasn't part of the original. I think they learned a little bit from Arkham Horror LCG, for example.
That's what I was going to ask, because I have played Arkham Horror LCG, which I really enjoy. And from what I understand, Lord of the Rings LCG and Arkham Horror LCG have a lot of comparables for them. And what I really loved about Arkham Horror was, one, it was very thematic. It pulled in a lot of stuff and it felt like very immersive, but then also you have that growth in that campaign and you can go and progress forward and move forward. And so if they've added that to Lord of the Rings, that sounds super exciting to me.
Yeah. I watched a video about that before, we recorded. And one of the things that was a negative about that was mentioned is that if your character dies, it just dies. You can't bring that character back, which can be a little problematic because you're building a deck around a character and around their sphere. So you may have to rebuild a deck by adding a new character, which seemed kind of weird to me, but
I mean, that's how life works.
Well,
when you die, you die.
I have yet to experience that, so I don't know for sure. So
I regret to announce this is the end. Goodbye.
Go find out for yourself if that's a problem, but that seemed a little bit weird to me.
I will say I've only played the solo, and learning this game, it's got a little bit of a curve.
It does.
There is a very detailed order of operations that you need to follow to play this game.
Yeah.
Once you get it down, it's amazing, but it is a little overwhelming to pick up by yourself.
And it's like any Fantasy Flight game where everything is a keyword. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I got to go look up what this keyword is. Once you play it 3 or 4 times, you kind of get that down, but there is a lot.
Does it have like Arkham Horror, the living card game also has 3, 4 rule books, something like that. The quick start guide to get you jumped in, the real rule book, the appendix, the campaign guide, all that stuff.
So at least in the revised core set, it has the learn to play and then the rules reference.
The original only had 1 rule book, but yeah, they've added another one. It sounds like.
My other dilemma with it is how much content do I buy? And do I buy all the old decks that are sometimes on sale? Do I only hold out for new stuff? So far, I've only bought 1 little expansion deck.
I mean, I love their new model on how they're doing it, where they release a whole, all of the expansions at once for what do they call it? A cycle, right? I think that's awesome.
It is cool.
Because you have everything. They have the storage solution is better because there's actually places to put the cards in the box if you want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, the old Fantasy Flight, it was just some stupid cardboard insert that drove me nuts. I mean, the first thing you do when you buy the game is you throw away the insert, right? Yeah. But it seems like they have a functional insert now.
I almost wish they would go to a subscription model. Like send me a new LCG Lord of the Rings pack every month for $10 to $15 or whatever they are.
Well, yeah, for the old model when they had the small expansions that released every month, that'd be perfect. I mean, that's what they're doing for Marvel Champions now, right? They release 1 every month.
Oh, yeah.
But they absolutely should do a subscription.
Seems like a missed opportunity. I don't know.
Perfect.
It depends on the logistics of it. Like that may be hard. How do you? It may not be worth the upkeep of doing it.
Sure, that's true. Yeah.
We're just talking about from a consumer perspective.
Yeah,
we want our expansions,
right?
We
don't care about if it makes them money or not.
Yeah, right?
Sorry.
Give me my expansions, dang it.
Sorry, I'll keep my publisher's hat off.
The art is amazing. I love the art.
Oh, the art. I didn't mention that.
And I love that in 4 or 5 plays, I had a couple of epic cinematic moments playing this game. And it makes me feel like I am playing a Lord of the Rings game, which that's what I want to play this game for.
Oh, and it's so cool when you're flipping over the cards from the encounter deck and you're like, oh, there's a hill troll. That's terrible. It's going to beat the crap out of me. But it's awesome, right? Because it's a cinematic, thematic thing. I can see in my head what's happening. Oh, another thing that I love is that each scenario you play, it adds something new and something different to the game. This is a plus and a minus, right? Because you mentioned there's a lot of rules overhead, and just to get your head wrapped around the main mechanics of the game can be difficult. And then every scenario has different rules and things that tweak the normal rules. And it is so easy to overlook something. So you got to be almost laser focused to make sure, oh yeah, I got to check this. Or, I'm guarding Gollum right now, for example. And because I'm guarding Gollum, I have different rules and things that I can't do. But if Gollum goes over to the other person, I don't have that. It's like a lot of things.
There's a little bit of upkeep.
There's upkeep and there's things, and it's easy to miss a rule. But if you get everything down, there's I think very few Lord of the Rings games that do it better, in my opinion. It's
have you played this one more than just solo?
Yeah, I've primarily played it 2-player with Matt, my brother-in-law. So I've played it solo, but most of it's been 2-player. And I think it is a fantastic solo game. It's also a very good 2-player game. I've played it 4 players, I think once, and I don't know if I'd want to do that again.
That's the same for me with Marvel Champions. I never want to play that with more than 2 people. It is already a pretty slow play, I think.
Right.
And adding a 3rd or 4th person would just kill the momentum completely on that.
Yeah, so I stick with 1 or 2 players. I agree with that for sure. So that is the Lord of the Rings living card game.
Cool. So one of the games I've been playing lately is, I got to play it lately, of Risk, the Lord of the Rings Trilogy edition. And Tyson, I know you played Risk growing up. I played Risk. Kevin somehow escaped.
Avoided somehow.
I've played Risk. I've played Risk.
Oh, I thought you had.
I've suffered through Risk.
Okay.
Well, a few times.
So I'm not going to go too in depth into this because everybody's pretty familiar with Risk. You've got armies. You start in specific regions, and as you take over groups of regions like Rohan or Gondor or Mordor, you start getting bonus armies from that. You're attacking, defending, trying to basically conquer the world. In this case, it's Middle Earth. This is one of my favorite versions of Risk. I haven't played a lot of different ones, but I have played a lot of like online Risk in the form of a game called Lux, which is basically Risk with different maps. But I really enjoyed this game. It's been years since I had played it. Logan was the Shadow armies, and I was the Free Peoples. I got obliterated. The rolls were going his way, which sometimes happens in Risk. There was one round where at one point I fought back and took some strongholds, which give you bonus points to your rolls. I took some strongholds back. I had a really good round. I was feeling pretty good. And then on his next turn, he just mowed like 80% of my lands. And I think I killed like 3 of his armies and I lost like 25. And it was like soul crushing. It was a Risk game.
But still fun, right?
I love it. It takes me into the miniatures are cool. There's a little ring, an actual ring that looks like a replica. It's cheap quality, but
you can't fit it on any finger of anybody except for maybe a child's finger.
Right. Yep. And the ring is traveling to Mordor.
Thematic.
The game ends if one army has not conquered everybody else. The game ends when the ring gets to Mordor, and then you tally up your points based off of how many lands you have and continents and bonus cards that you've accumulated. It is cool. You have these leader guys, up to 3 leader guys that you can add to your armies over the course of the game, and they're moving around. They get a +1 to the highest roll in any of your battles that they are in. But then also when they conquer those places of power, who are that are spread out over the course of the map, you get to draw an event card. And so you have all these cool thematic event cards. It just so happens I remember a play. The first time I ever played this was like back in 2005. I was living in California at the time. My neighbor brought it over. We played. He knew about this. I don't know the exact title, but it was basically Tunnel Under the Mountain card. And I had Mordor sealed off. I was just destroying him. He played this card. I had no idea it existed in the deck. It was a cheap win moment that he celebrated, which made it even worse. And
He probably should have told you about that card.
I mean,
right?
he also introduced me to killer bunnies, so I can't hold too much
This is
against
a
him.
shady fellow.
Yeah, but no. So I was thinking about that play many years ago, and it was good to get this game out again. It's Risk.
It's nostalgic, right?
It's still Risk. It came out in 2003. It's a little nostalgic.
Cool.
It is what it is.
I own a copy of this, and I think I've played it, but I can't remember. But from what I do remember, I feel like this was a better version of Risk than any other version of Risk that I had played.
That's how I feel about it.
And I think it was from my vague recollections of my experience with it, I remember it being more fun. And I already like Risk. So like I don't think Risk is a bad game if you know what you're getting into with Risk, right?
Yeah.
Like you know that the dice may not be in your favor and you can just get ruined by that. And if you're okay with that, that'll be fine. And if you're okay with player elimination and leaving and watching a game go after
you can go watch Lord of the
hour or
Rings.
two, yeah, exactly. You can
Extended
watch the whole
edition.
thing.
So a better version of Risk is a good thing then, right?
Yeah,
A better version of a terrible game. Is it still a terrible game?
it's much better than Monopoly.
Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. And there are far worse games than Risk.
I remember
Yeah.
playing Risk a ton as a kid with my brother on the weekends, often in the morning, sometimes before church. Like, I love those memories. So
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think I've mentioned this, but Risk is like one of my earliest gaming memories in that I remember my cousins playing it on Thanksgiving before and after the big Thanksgiving meal. But I was too young to play, and I just was envious of that experience and wanted to be there. And I watched and studied the whole thing. So I like Risk because of those nostalgia moments as well. But I think the production quality on this game for coming out like a Risk style game, like it's
and for being Hasbro.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
being Hasbro, it does a really decent job at that.
Yeah, the miniatures are cool. I mean, I like the art, and it's got pictures from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So I
Nice.
like it. It's awesome. That's Risk, the Lord of the Rings trilogy edition.
I got the best transition, guys. Speaking of Lord of the Rings and
I thought he
Middle
was going to
Earth,
tell us to pause while he told us what his transition was.
Oh.
no,
He's actually
okay.
transitioning
Okay.
now.
Okay.
You totally blew it.
I always do.
it was You've never made my transitions work.
Okay.
Even if I have a perfect one.
Go.
It was a terrible transition. It was a pun because every single thing we're doing here is Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings related. So yes, next in line is the game that I played recently, which is Exit.
Wait, where was the transition?
Yeah, was that a transition?
Yeah, you ruined it. I couldn't get back from there.
So did you not tell us what you were thinking?
I did, but clearly every transition, if it's Lord of the Rings, you ruined it.
Don't be hasty, Tyson.
I get it. Don't be hasty.
Fool of a took, rid of your stupidity. Throw yourself in next time.
I don't know if that's the actual quote.
That is
I don't know either.
It is.
Oh,
Okay.
good job.
Hey.
Now that was a transition.
Yeah.
Go.
So the game.
tosses a dwarf.
Every time. At least once an episode.
That's true. I've been excited to hear about this game.
I have two.
All right. So the game that I've been playing lately, Lord of the Rings related, is Exit the game. The Lord of the Rings Shadows over Middle Earth. Title upon subtitle. It's a mouthful. It is designed by Inca and Marcus Brand, who I think we have all enjoyed. We've played Rajas of the Ganges, right?
Fantastic
And
game.
we love that. And I think they're great designers. And I haven't had a game with them that I didn't like to this point. So Lord of the Rings the exit game takes place during the time that Frodo is trying to return the ring to Mordor and throw it in the fires, right? So the premise of this game is that you are all hobbits who are friends with Frodo, and you're attempting, with the aid of Gandalf, to help Frodo and the Fellowship along the way. So a bunch of hobbits that are going around basically and going from like the Shire to Rivendell to everywhere along this journey and trying to basically help Frodo not fall into certain pitfalls. It's kind of a loose theme, I think. Like, it's hard to figure out exactly what you're doing, but essentially you're solving puzzles. So if you've played any exit game, these are basically just an escape room in the box where you're trying to solve certain puzzles so that they can lead you to the next puzzle, and then you solve that one until you go through. There are a number of cards in this game that have Gandalf on them that are hint cards, and these hint cards will allow you to, if you get stuck somewhere, to give you clues on how to proceed and go forward. And you'll flip those over, and if you use a certain amount of help cards, it's going to detract from your overall score. So at the end of the game, you're going to get a rating. I think it's 1 to 10, but I think actually the lowest rating you can get is a 2 in this game. And that's going to be based on how quickly you complete all of the clues and how many help cards you do or do not use. So there's a lot going on in this game. I ended up playing this one with my wife. She was willing to play this with me. She likes escape rooms. We've done a number of physical escape rooms, and we really enjoy those. I have the only other escape room in a box style game that I've done is Escape Room the Game, which has like 3 scenarios in it and has a big mechanism. But it was different than the exit game, which this is a one-time only place because you're going to end up ripping things up or making possible permanent changes to the game, so you can't use it after you're done. So to cut right to the point, I did not like this game. I did not have a good experience with this game. The theme did not draw me in. I mean, Lord of the Rings draws me in, so that's why I was excited to play it. But then being told that I'm a hobbit that is supposedly helping the Fellowship in secrecy, and so that's why Frodo doesn't know about it, and some weird stuff. It just didn't make sense to me. And then the puzzles were not my favorite kinds of puzzles, and I won't spoil anything, but there was things that it was making me do that as I was going through the puzzles, I was looking at these puzzles and thinking, yeah, I know what you want me to do, but that doesn't sound at all interesting to me. I don't want to do what you're wanting me to do. It's boring.
They were not thematic in any,
they're not.
Way. It was just a puzzle to be a puzzle to move it along, right?
Pretty much. And then like the components, and I get why the components are this way from a publishing side, but the components were garbage. Like some of them required me to construct things and put things together, but the quality of the materials used was not such that it would allow me to do it. And I had to make things, and it just frustrated me when I was like, I know what you want me to do and I know how to get the solution, but your components are restricting me from being able to make this solution easy. So I'm adding time to my score trying to fix the problems with these components that it was not a good experience, to the point that we got about halfway through and I was like, I'm done with this. Are you done? I was asking my wife and she was like, yeah, I was done a long time ago. She had checked out already. And I was like, all right. And I picked everything up and I immediately went and I threw it in the trash.
Whoa.
Now that sounds very dramatic.
That is dramatic. Did you burn it afterwards?
I did not. But like I said at the start,
I don't know.
It was in my house, in my garbage can. I didn't want to light my garbage can on fire. Thank you.
Maybe you wanted to get warm. I don't know.
No, so like I know that sounds dramatic, throwing the game away, but ultimately it was unplayable after that. I couldn't have passed this copy along to anybody so that they could get an experience with it. I had already permanently damaged the game, and I had no desire to have finished it halfway and then go and start it up halfway through later and do it. I read through a bunch of the help cards to look what was going on, and I read through the ones that I had already basically completed or looked at, and there were a couple of times I did look at a help card to help move me along, and I would read it and I was like, no, I already understand that. And then I would read the second help card and I was be like, yeah, and I did that. But then I would read the solution and I was like, okay, that's the answer. But it didn't really get me, like, it didn't help me solve the problem where I was stuck sometimes, and I didn't love that.
Yeah, I've played one exit in the secret lab. I've played more unlock games, and I prefer unlock over exit. And like for what you're talking about, if you get stuck in unlock, it's all app driven. You just click on a hint button, it brings it up, and it's always a helpful hint. Plus you get through the game, it's completely replayable. You can give it to somebody else. You can pass it on to somebody else. You can come back to the game a few years later
after
because
you
probably have forgotten what all the clues are, and you can replay it. I remember liking playing the exit game, but I do remember it being it was some wonky puzzles and stuff. You had to fold paper and that kind of thing. So unlock is a better way to go for me, I think.
I've played a couple exit games, and both of them ended in frustration for me. I've got a couple unplayed ones in Shrink Wrap. I don't know when we'll ever get those
Did
played.
you throw them in the garbage in a fit of rage?
There's no need to get angry.
No, I generally stay composed when playing board games.
There was no rage involved. Okay. It was a fit of practicality.
Oh, okay, all right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Even when it was like going well, it was just, I was not engaged by it. The puzzles were not interesting. I didn't want to do it. I've done a few different escape or puzzles books and things like that as well. And there have been games and puzzle books that I've been like, okay, what is the next thing going to take me to? Where am I going to go? That's exciting to me. This just didn't do that for me at all. And so I didn't like my experience with this game at all. I was sad because I really thought, oh, this could be a cool experience. And if this exit game is good, I'd like to play more. I'd love to try some of the unlocks, though. They are the ones that appealed to me more, I think, at just a glance. And hearing you say that, Kevin, that all those perks, those were kind of the reasons why I didn't like this game. So if that's a better experience, I would love to try that. But yeah, that was Exit the Game, The Lord of the Rings, Shadows over Middle Earth.
That is a mouthful. Wow. Yeah. Couldn't they have shortened that a little bit?
They're trying to get their point across.
Right. There's no doubt what this game is about.
Yeah, I'm not going to interrupt your transition, though.
Okay. I rarely have transitions, though.
Me too.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings games. Okay.
I see what you did there.
All right. I also have a game that has a long title. It is Love Letter, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies.
What is going on?
Apparently, if it's Lord of the Rings, it has to have like 18 titles.
Right. Yeah, it does. It does. So this is a love letter game. There's a bunch of different variations. It's essentially the same mechanics with a few different cards thrown in there, right? So this one is designed by, I'm going to butcher the name, Senji Kanai, and published by AEG. So we've talked about Love Letter before. My personal favorite is Love Letter Batman. There's Jabba's Realm that just came out. That's a great love letter. This one is just Love Letter Hobbit that's set in the Tolkien universe. It's got the same mechanics, like I mentioned. There are cards from 0 to 8, I believe. All these cards do different things. The mechanic of the game is you have a deck in the middle, you have a card, you draw a card, and you play a card. That's all you do. And you're trying to get everybody else out of the round. and you're trying to be the last person standing at the end of the round. If you are, you get a little stone. I believe they're little Arkenstones. If you gather, I think, 4 of these before everybody else does, then you win. You win the game. The differences in this one, and there are a few differences. You have the One Ring, which is a 0 value card. If that's the last card that you have when the deck runs out, then I believe that is worth 7. Am I remembering that right? Okay. So instead of 0, it's worth 7, which the cards only go up to 8. If you have the highest value card at the end of the round, you win, as long as you don't get eliminated before that. So it can be a powerful card. There's also, I guess, the Arkenstone, which is similar to other ones. That's the highest value. That's a number 8. There are 2 cards. So normally there's 1 card, and it varies. It's the Bane card in Batman Love Letter, where you compare your hand with somebody else. Whoever has the lower value is out for the round. This one has a little twist where there is a card that does that, but there's also another card that says if you have the higher value card, when you compare hands, then you're out for the round, which I haven't seen that in any other Love Letter game, which causes I think a pretty funny situation to happen potentially. And it happened in our game where if you have the Arkenstone, which is value 8, you cannot discard it or else you're out. That's what the card says. If you have, is it Tariel?
Yes. Yeah.
It forces you to compare with hands with somebody else. Since you can't discard the Arkenstone, you have to compare hands with somebody else. If you have the higher card, which is the Arkenstone, you're out. So it's a terminal combination. Like you cannot win if you get that combination. That's a difference in this game as well. And there's one other thing where you remove a card every round. In this game, you remove a card for the game. I don't know if that's a rule in every Love Letter, and I've just been playing it wrong. But this one, the card, and we looked at the rules, you remove the card from the game.
You may get a hand up in round 2 or 3 if you've figured out what card is taken out, because other players may not yet have pieced that together.
Right.
But then by the end of the game, everybody has likely figured out what is the missing card in the game. And so it becomes essentially superfluous. It doesn't really matter at the end.
Yeah. If you have Smog, and it's the end of the game, you know what that other person is.
We played this a couple times at game night a few weeks ago. It was a blast.
It was so much fun. Yeah.
Hilarious. We were all laughing. We were all quoting movies. We were into it. It was hilarious. And it was awesome. It was so much fun.
Well, and I was the first one, I think, that got the Arkenstone Tariel combination.
Right.
And as soon as I drew that and I looked at my hand, I was like, I'm dead.
Like,
what
this
do I
sucks.
do with this? This is absolute garbage. And at first I was kind of upset by that. And so I just put it down and I was like, well, I guess I'm out. And then it happened almost immediately, like the next round. I think it happened to Tyler next. And
it was funny when it happened to somebody else.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, you know what? That's not so bad.
Right.
I thought it was kind of a design flaw. And maybe it
but
is.
I don't think it is.
But it really,
I think it's just
it
funny.
adds some interesting experiences.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always with Tariel, but one of us had the Arkenstone like 2 or 3 turns in a row.
I had it.
And then somebody had it. Yeah, you had it a few turns, but then somebody else had it for a couple turns in a row, and then someone else did. Like it was just completely random.
Early in the game, it's like the first card I drew like 2 or 3 times in a row, and it's like it's a good card if you get it late in the game.
Yeah.
If you get it early in the game, it's tough to hold on to.
There is one glaring absence of a character in this card game.
Yes,
it is the freaking Hobbit. And there is no Gollum card, which I do not know how. Is there some rights that they don't own, or how did this happen that they did not include him?
Because it could be more of a because it was he was in the Hobbit.
They own the right. It's the Hobbit game.
Why else would you leave that character out?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't. Is Gandalf in there? Is he one of the cards?
No, but Tariel is, and
Keely and
Feely are, and. I mean, I get that
there's limited numbers of cards.
But then at the same time, you're not playing this game for the theme. I mean,
fair enough.
Yeah, it's not dripping with theme. But it is.
But we were in the middle of playing it, and we've played this years ago. I remember playing it at your house years ago, but we were in the middle of playing it. It was like, wait a second, there's not even a golem in this. What is going on?
That is an oversight for sure.
But it was a great play. It's a really fun love letter. I agree. I think I like Batman more, but this is right up there with it.
And I think if I had to rank them, I liked Jabba's Palace over this one.
Add some different stuff.
I also really liked that one.
Or Jabba's Realm or
Jabba's
whatever it's
Realm,
called. And then I like Batman,
Palace.
but I don't like Jabba or Batman as much as I think you guys. But you guys have played that one a lot more. I like the Lovecraft letter as probably one of my favorite ones.
I personally like the original, the Elizabethan or whatever
You have
time
never
period.
played
No,
that.
I haven't.
I have that.
I haven't either. Oh, you have that one?
I do not.
Oh, I love this. I love how they package them.
Oh, that's my favorite. Yes. The velvet bag, no box.
Yeah.
Please, other publishers, please take note of that.
Yeah, 'cause
I
you
would
can
love
stack
to
them
get
real
my-
easy.
Yeah, I'd love to get my board games and card games in a velvet bag.
Everything
Full-size
in a
board
bag.
game.
Who do we need to write a letter to?
I mean, it is kind of cool. It's like a Santa bag, like
It's
That
like
type of
Christmas
knit.
every day when you play it.
yeah, but different colors. But I will say, is it the Thanos Marvel love letter?
Haven't played it though.
Trash. It's not my favorite.
You're going straight to trash. Burn it! Burn it!
It must be taken deep into Mordor and cast back into the fiery chasm from whence it came.
We're throwing around a lot of trash. It started with Tyson.
This is a Tyler thing. Tyler's throwing around.
You threw the exit game in the garbage.
You
That's what
actually
said.
did that. I've never done that.
Yeah, you told me to light my trash on fire.
No, I
after
told you that.
Oh, so I threw it.
I was just asking a question. I don't know.
At that point, mine was literally trash.
It was unplayable again. Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah, but that was great.
But that is Hobbit. Oh, hold
on a
on.
second.
I got to get that is Love Letter, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies.
What's key to Hobbitses?
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the name of the
we
game?
have Schmiegel in the recording studio
We
with
have
us.
a guest. Smeagol, would you like to say anything?
You know, I love.
Oh, come on. No.
character.
I loved doing all of the Lord of the Rings voices growing up. Like I tried to figure out how best to do them, so I tried to master Schmiegel, Gollum, Gandalf, and Gimli. Those were the ones.
So
You do a
what
really
would
good job
what
on
would Gollum say about his ring then? Why don't you give us one of those?
Oh, now you gotta see because I gotta quote the actual thing, so I gotta think of an exact line and do it.
Starts with a P.
Oh, I know, but you can't just say.
Where it is.
All right, it's got to be spontaneous.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
maybe
we'll come back to Schmiegel.
We'll
Yeah,
get
it'll,
another one. We'll get the pressure's. I'm not Andy.
Yeah, you're
Serkis
sweating
here,
bullets
so,
over here, so it's got to be natural in the flow of it. We'll hopefully
We'll edit
hear
this
it.
part out.
We'll hear it later. So that is Love Letter, The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies.
I am really excited about this next game. This game has been on my shelf of shame since August of 2018. It was on in my top 5 list of shelf of shame games for 2022 that I wanted to get played all the way back in our episode 4 of our podcast as my number 3, War of the Ring, 2nd edition. Came out in 2011. Designed by Roberto Di Meglio, Marco Maggi, and Francisco Nepitello. And I apologize.
That title's way too short.
So I finally got this game out. It is a heavy thematic strategy war game. And I finally got it out. I finally had some time. It took way longer to learn the rules than I had time for. But my son and I snuck it in over the course of a couple nights. We finally got it played. It was an absolute blast. It is the epic, quintessential Lord of the Rings game, as far as I'm concerned, that I've played. I played as the Shadow Armies, and my son Logan played as the Free Peoples. It's got some, you're rolling dice, you're chucking dice. You have both action dice that each player rolls at the beginning of the round. You draw some event cards that you have available to you that are very thematic. You roll some action dice that have different icons on them, and based on what those icons are, whether it's army or muster or character or the Palantir, you have a bunch of different actions available to you depending on what you've rolled. And so you take turns using those dice to do actions. There's lots of attacking and fighting. The Free Peoples, what's cool about them is one of the actions that's unique for them is they can advance the ring, right? And it's hidden. So anytime they advance the ring or the ring bearers, which is Frodo and Sam, the shadow player has an opportunity to roll dice to see if they discover where the ring bearers are. And when that happens, the ring bearers have to use the ring to hide themselves, and so they become a little more corrupted. If you get high enough up on the corruption track, then the shadow player wins. Obviously, if the ring gets to Mordor, then the hunt intensifies, but eventually either the shadow player is going to win by corrupting the ring bearers, or the ring's going to be destroyed.
In the land of Mordor, in the fires of Mount Doom.
But another cool thing about the Free Peoples is you start out with members of the Fellowship in your party, and over time they can kind of split off and go recruit. There's a political track, and you're trying to get the different factions of Middle-earth to go to war, basically, before you can muster armies and recruit and go out and attack with them. You have to entice them to fight the shadow together, right? So that's cool. But those members of the Fellowship can split off. They have abilities. If they're the guide of the Fellowship at any point in time, they have special abilities. But then if they split off, they have other abilities that are cool. But they can also recruit Gimli can recruit the dwarves, and Legolas can get the elves more involved. And then they also add modifiers when there's battles that take place with them in it. Really awesome game, just incredible experience. In the game that we played, I kind of vacated a couple of my strongholds, and really the Free Peoples to win, they only have to take over 2 strongholds at any one time. And that's one way that they can win with 4 victory points. The Shadow the Shadow armies have to take over 10 total points of strongholds or cities. And so it's harder for them to do. They obviously have the more powerful armies. They can recruit faster. You get Saruman and the Witch King of Angmar out there. I didn't get the Mouth of Sauron on the board, but that's another option. The Free Peoples can get Gandalf the White. They can trade in Strider for Aragorn. If all of the Fellowship companions abandon Frodo and Sam, then Gollum joins them. Really cool. We didn't ever get to that point. My son saw my empty strongholds. He started mustering and moving his armies there. And then I recruited really quickly, and I had some reinforcement armies come over, and I just kind of he took over 2 strongholds at different times, and then I took them right back, and then it was just kind of over from there. But it was a really fun play. I'm excited to get this to the table again, and it gives that epic experience for Lord of the Rings that Rebellion does for Star Wars.
Are you going to track down the collector's edition?
No, I would have to take on a second job or a second mortgage or something. Yeah. No,
okay. Yeah.
I'm not even going to tempt myself by searching for that.
Probably wise.
I do want to track down some of the expansions. I have one of them. I don't know where it is.
Nice.
This is, like you said, I've always heard that this is the quintessential Tolkien, Lord of the Rings game, right? Akin to Star Wars Rebellion or Star Trek Ascendancy, right? Like if you like any of those, these are the games to play for it. And I've always wanted to play this one. My big issue with this one is I feel like it's hard to get 2-player games played for me, so I haven't had the chance to do it. I wish almost that there were a game that were the quintessential one that wasn't 2 players. Like Rebellion suffers the same issue, and I wish there were more opportunities for me to get those played. But this seems like, tell me what was the playtime like for this? I know it was split over 2 nights.
So we played, once we got it set up, we played like 3 rounds in the first night, and that was like an hour. And we were still looking up rules quite a bit during that time. And then we finished it in 2 hours the next night. So I felt like it played pretty quickly for some of the rules overhead that we had to seek out. So you think double check things with.
Once you get it down, 2 hours is probably
2.5 hours. I think it ended a little early. Like I said, my son focused on trying to take over my strongholds. He didn't really advance Frodo and Sam. So I never really had to dedicate my action dice towards that to hunting for him. And so I was just taking tons of actions every round. And I think that made it go a little quicker. I think if he would have been moving the Fellowship towards Mordor a little more, I would have, it would have taken up some of my resources or some of my actions and would have slowed the game down a little bit.
BGG says 150 to 180 minutes. So
okay,
seems about right?
For a first play, I felt like we did pretty good.
All right.
Yeah, it was awesome though. I felt like I was in Middle Earth, right? It was awesome. The Nazgul can kind of fly anywhere and go anywhere. If your Nazgul die or if any of the Fellowship dies, they're off the map. If any of the Free People's armies die, they're done. But because the Shadow People can create orcs so quickly, they're never really, you never run out of guys. But I basically wiped out all the elves except for like 2 units. And they were running for the shores of
the Undying Lands.
They were running to hop on a boat and get out of there. The dwarves never left their fortresses. Stubborn dwarves. I don't know.
That sounds fun. It sounds thematic. That's cool.
I think what we need to do at some point then is we need to have a board game night speed date type of an experience where they're only 2-player games and they're all set up.
And they're all 3-hour 2-player games?
No, you gotta, it's an all-day game. This is a cabin con. This is an all-day experience type of a thing. But you switch seats and you go play the next game, right? We'll
have Rebellion there. We'll have War of the Rings. I could
be on board for that.
That'd be cool.
Good idea.
Yeah, I like it.
When you said speed dating, I'm like, that seems weird. Yeah, we're all married, but I like when you explained it.
Not to each other.
No. But that sounds like fun. Yeah. Good idea.
It is a heavy game on BGG. The weight is 4.19 out of 5. It is also ranked number 11th overall. I guess it would be number 10, but there's this game that came out a year ago, Ark Nova, that
never heard of it.
Somehow skyrocketed into the top 10.
I mean, to be fair, it's a fun game. I like it.
Is it number 4 fun?
Not even close.
No.
I don't think.
Because I haven't played it.
I have
yet.
not. But I played it one time. I would need to play it more.
Yeah.
It seems like it has some depth to it.
It's on the same plane with Terraforming Mars, which I would also not put in the top 10. But we're on a tangent.
Yeah. We're going on a tangent.
We're on a tangent. So let's get back to Middle Earth, War of the Ring. Do we have any more games that we've played lately?
I've played games lately, but no Lord of the Rings themed games.
I got one more that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And I haven't played this lately, but really quick. Trivial Pursuit, The Lord of the Rings Movie Trilogy Collector's Edition.
There you go.
Now that's a Lord of the Rings game.
That's the right title. Yeah.
This came out This came out in 2003. We have worn the cards out on this game. You have to know the extended edition content that is on all the Blu-rays or DVDs to get some of the answers right on some of these questions. It's an awesome game. Love playing it. There's a Nazgul or there's a ring wraith that is chasing you over the course of the game. You can also have the one ring when you get a question answered correctly that will also allow you to use it to choose a new question on a later turn. Lord of the Rings, Trivial Pursuit, awesome game.
You're a pretty big Trivial Pursuit fan in general.
I am.
right?
We have a lot of those. My brother and I used to just grab the deck of cards and not even playing the game sometimes, or like I'd have a deck of cards sometimes in my room, and that's how I'd fall asleep sometimes.
Yeah, we have Marvel Trivial Pursuit.
Nice.
And it is a lot of fun. If I play with my daughter, if anybody plays with my daughter, you will lose. But it's fun losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have 6 or 7 different versions. I also have Lord of the Rings Trivial Pursuit Trilogy Edition DVD.
I've played.
Do you have the VHS version?
I don't. I'm not even sure I could find a DVD player at this point. Well, Xbox, but
Yeah.
I've played the Harry Potter Trivial Pursuit DVD edition as well, and that's that and like generic Trivial Pursuit, or like the extent of my Trivial Pursuit plays. But I don't typically like Trivial Pursuit for the game element of it. I do like it for the trivia side of it, just going through and doing the trivia, and I don't like following the rules. But how would you rank the Lord of the Rings really long name Trivial Pursuit against the other Trivial Pursuits? Is it better?
It's easily my favorite. And often we would watch like the trilogy, or while we're watching the trilogy, play the game. That about wraps up the Lord of the Rings themed games that we've been playing lately. I think there's a good variety there, lots of good games that we've enjoyed and some that we haven't, that we've thrown away.
But there's one more. The Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth is designed by Nathan I. Hadjick and Grace Holdinghouse, published by Fantasy Flight Games. The Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. During a game, a group of heroes embarks on perilous adventures, working together to explore and survive the vast epic fantasy world of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Throughout their journeys, heroes battle powerful foes, discover lost treasures, uncover forgotten lore, and customize their skills according to their role within their fellowship. As darkness is rising, unifying evil, shadow, and corruption, it is time for the heroes to take a stand and begin their journey in Middle-earth. Each game of The Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth is one adventure of a greater campaign. During each adventure, the heroes attempt to complete a series of objectives before they are overwhelmed by the evils of Middle-earth. No matter the outcome of a particular adventure, the heroes and the campaign progress. Eventually, after completing a series of adventures, the campaign will reach a climactic conclusion that ends in a success or failure for the entire party of heroes. To start a campaign, you select a campaign difficulty in the Journeys in Middle-earth app. Journeys in Middle-earth is an app-driven game. In order to play the game, you are required to download the app onto any compatible device. The app will guide you through setup, which includes selecting the heroes you will play with, gathering all of your starting items, and selecting which role each hero will play. You will then create all of the supply decks and create each hero's skill deck. The main focus of Journeys in Middle-earth revolves around the player's skill deck. The skill deck is comprised of basic skill cards that everyone has, role cards that are specific to the role chosen for a particular hero, and specific hero cards. One weakness card will also be included in each skill deck. Throughout the campaign, heroes' skill decks can be upgraded with better role cards, trinkets, and title cards earned throughout the campaign. Items not included in a player's skill deck can also be upgraded. Upgrading happens after each adventure. I won't go into exactly how upgrading works, just know that your heroes will be getting more powerful over time as you explore and complete adventures. The game is played over a series of rounds. Each round has 3 phases. The first phase is the action phase. During the action phase, you can travel, explore, attack, or interact. To travel, you simply move your character up to 2 spaces anywhere on the map. The map is comprised of tiles that are laid out on the table according to how the app instructs you to lay them out. If at any time a player moves into a tile that is grayed out in the app, they will explore that tile. When you explore a tile, you remove the exploration token from the map and gain 1 inspiration token. Inspiration tokens will give you benefits, which I will explain later. Most of what you do in Journeys in Middle-earth revolves around skill checks. Skill checks are how you interact with the world, battle, defend, or do anything else required in Middle-earth. Skill checks are performed based on one of 5 stats that are listed on your player card. The stats include might, wisdom, agility, spirit, and wit. Each stat will have a number associated with it. The higher the number, the better the hero is at that stat. When the app directs you to perform a skill check, a hero reveals cards from the top of their skill deck. The number of cards revealed is equal to the value of the stat being tested. After revealing cards, the hero determines the number of successes revealed. A success is represented by a star icon in the upper left corner of the skill card. For each inspiration leaf revealed from the skill deck, a player can convert inspiration tokens they have collected for 1 success per inspiration token returned to the supply. The third action you can take on your turn is the attack action. A skill check is performed to determine how successful you were in your attack. How much damage you do depends on the item you are attacking with, and if you have cards that you have prepared earlier in the game that will add to your attack. Damage to enemies is added to the app, and the app will direct you to what to do after an attack is made. The final action is the interact action. Whenever you see a search, threat, or person token on the board, you can interact with that token. To interact, a skill check is performed, and based on how successful you are in your skill check, you will succeed or fail in your interaction. After all players' actions are completed, you move to the shadow phase. During the shadow phase, the enemies will attack, darkness will strike fear into the heroes, and threat will increase. The final phase of a turn is the rally phase. The rally phase allows players to prepare for the next round. Players draw 2 cards and have the chance to prepare one of them and place the other card on either the top or bottom of their deck. Prepared cards go below the player's hero card and can be used later in the game. To win Journeys in Middle-earth, the heroes must complete all of the objectives as instructed by the app. Players lose the adventure if the threat level in the app is maxed out or if one of their heroes dies. A hero dies if damage cards or fear cards obtained through the game are equal to or higher than the limit indicated on their player card, and if the hero is unsuccessful in completing a last stand. So that's a quick rundown of how to play. Let's get back to the table to see what we thought of The Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth.
Thanks, Kevin, for the rules overview of Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth, the game that we're reviewing today. To start off, let's talk a little bit about the production of this game and the things that we like or dislike about how this game was produced. Kevin, I know that you are the owner of this game, and you've had the most experience with this game so far. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the production of this game?
So I think there's a little bit of good and bad in the production in my mind. I'll talk about the good first. I think the minis are really well done. One of the minis that I got in the game was bent beyond belief when I got it. No fault of the game. That just happens with minis. I boiled it, and then Tyler's eyes
stick them in a stew.
Yeah, right. Tyler's eyes just went crazy.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
No, this is the way. In case you guys didn't know, this
trick.
Is a thing.
I mean, I've done that with like a mouthpiece for football. Like
that's sterilizing.
Yeah, it also lets you conform mold the shape to your
same
teeth.
concept,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So you put it in some boiling water, and then you can just bend it right back to where it should be, and it worked perfectly. So no fault of the game. That's just something that I did. But I think the minis overall they're good molds. They look really nice. They look really cool on the board when they're out there.
I can't believe you got your mini wet.
It's plastic.
Says the guy who eats pieces. All right.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. I think the miniatures are done really well. I think the art in this game is good. Like the card art, I think is really good.
It's very similar to the LCG, right?
It is. It's very similar to the LCG. The problem I have with that though is you don't really notice the art because it's on really small cards, right? Yes. So it's like if you get really close and look at it, you can say, okay, that's pretty cool, but you don't notice it because it's on such small cards. I get why they did that, because if you put it on normal size cards, it would just be a table hog, right? It would just be a massive game. So I get why they did that, but it's just you don't notice the art on the cards very well.
But that is one thing that Fantasy Flight does particularly well, is they do a good job of when they when they get an IP, they create a lot of content for it, a lot of art. And so some of this is drawn from other sources as well within their house of having all of this IP.
Their stock IP art.
Right. But it does look nice, at least. I like that about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had an issue with some of the art.
Yep. Me as well.
The tiles, the board tiles art was a little bland. It didn't feel like Middle-earth.
I agree. So there's different types of tiles, right? There's the above ground tiles, I guess, and then the below ground tiles, whether you're in a tunnel or you're in some random underground room with a fire
in the middle of a field.
Right.
Yeah.
But the color, like the palette that they used on the underground tiles was just kind of weird. It didn't
really mesh either.
Yeah.
Even if it were like, even if the colors or the flora and the fauna or whatever on the outer world tiles wasn't vibrant and lush as I would want, it didn't seem to mesh with the art that was in the caves and the indoors places.
Yeah, and the colors on the outdoor tiles were so muted that I didn't even know there were trees. Like the last time we played, I started looking close at some of the tiles. I'm like, oh, that's a tree. I saw the ruins and stuff, and sometimes there's lakes, and depending on the scenario, there's going to be certain things you interact with, and I could kind of see some of that stuff, but it was just so generic and muted that I question the decision on the color scheme a little bit.
There was the one time too where we were told to put out another tile adjacent to an existing one, and they were supposed to interlock a little bit, and they didn't fit, and that was kind of a negative too, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Did you boil that piece?
I did. I boiled all the cardboard. It worked great. Great. Did not boil the cardboard. I kind of forced it to go together, and it got better a little bit, but that was a little bit discouraging, to say the least. Especially when you're paying $100 for a game, you want it to.
You want the production quality to be good, and then because it adds to the whole experience, right? For me, though, I think that the production fell into two camps.
Yep.
Right. Like I think that the cardboard side of the camp here, you've got all your cardboard and card component, excluding some of the art on the card, some of it. And then you've got the miniatures and the app. So like the thematic side of the game and that thematic side of the house, those production. For me, the cardboard stuff was subpar. The quality of it wasn't that great. I didn't feel the tokens, the chits, the bits, they didn't really matter all that much. They weren't that great. But then the more important thematic parts of it, the minis and then the narrative app-driven app were actually, I thought, really well done. The app, in fact, I feel like was done really well. I've played with a number of app-driven games, and of all those that I've played with, I think that this one did a really good job at maintaining the parts of the game that the upkeep stuff that I don't want to do and takes me away from the experience of the game anyway, and then doing that in the background and creating it so that it can help me maintain the immersion into the experience. So I thought the app actually did a pretty good job at handling and maintaining the game for the most part.
Yeah, I thought the app was great. I have one small criticism about the app is there's no back button.
Undo.
There's no undo. And I played this game solo. I played it 4 times. And I came across scenarios where I was a little unclear on the rules, so I clicked through something on the app and realized that I had done it wrong. And I'm like, oh, there's no way for me to undo this, right? So I had to just continue with that error, right?
Well, and if that's an important narrative element of the game, right? That you were like, oh, I didn't do X.
That probably ate away at your psyche too a little bit.
Right. I mean, I immediately had to house rule it, and my soul died a little bit inside. But yeah. I mean, it didn't ruin the experience, or didn't ruin the game, that little error. But it was just kind of like, I need an undo button right? I need something that will let me go back a little bit so I can redo it and do it the right way.
I think you may, Kevin, have even prefaced it and been like, hey, let's be careful here that we make the right decision because otherwise there's no undo. And
yeah, so we were very careful. Okay, I'm applying 8 hits.
Right.
8 okay, pierce, stun.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it? Okay, apply. All right, got it. Yeah. Okay, good. We did it right.
Yeah.
You know,
So yeah, and the potential for human error right there that you can't go back on.
Right. Yeah. It's it's a big responsibility to be in charge of that app. So, but I mean, I think those are very small nitpicks on the app itself. I think overall it's done.
I think it's
done really well.
One of the shining parts of this game.
Absolutely. I think it's probably one of the better parts of the game is the app. So, but everything else in the app, like you mentioned, Tyson, the way that it tracks your inventory, you can have 4 separate campaigns going and it'll track everything separately. There is quite a bit of setup if you're going to be doing multiple campaigns at the same time with different people. That's a little bit of a drawback, but the fact that it tracks everything, tracks your trinkets, tracks your upgraded items in your skill deck, the items that you start the game with that you can increase with your lore, all that stuff's tracked, which is pretty cool. And it's really well done and easy to navigate in the app, which is cool. I like that.
Because like I've played a number of campaign games. I'm thinking of like Gloomhaven and Stars of Icarios off the top of my head right now. And they have those little paper sheets where you have to track every little progress goal that you've had for the campaign and for your character and all of that. But this, like you're saying, Kevin, you can take care of all of that in an app form, meaning I don't have to have all these loose leaf sheets of paper. I don't have to have pencils in there, which Tyler hates having to write anything. So that's a plus.
It's the worst, right?
But like you don't have any of that stuff that you have to worry about, which means that the fiddly kind of more annoying components aren't necessarily there. So I think it does a good job at maintaining that.
We need to disclose that we did not play through a full campaign.
Yep. I played through the first 3 adventures solo and with the group. So I played a total of 6 times. I played when I first got it a few years ago, 1 time, so 7 total plays, but recently 6 plays.
And the campaign itself, remind me, how many potential scenarios can it be?
I don't know for sure.
Do we know that?
I thought it was in the mid-teens.
Yeah,
That's
I think
what
it was 12
thinking,
to 14 or something like that. And I don't know if it varies based on what path that you take and if you win or lose the scenario. I'm not sure about that.
So there are a lot more of content that we didn't see in our plays of the game. So take that for what it's worth. We did not go through the entire campaign, but we feel like we got a fair amount of plays in and a fair amount of different perspective. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of little things, nuanced mechanics that can reveal that we didn't get to experience necessarily.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games. There's stacks and stacks of cards that we didn't even see. So there's stuff that obviously we didn't experience not going through the whole game, but I think we got a pretty good taste of what the game's all about.
So yeah, let's talk about what we like about the game.
So I'll start. One of the things that I like about, I mentioned that I played it solo and I played with the group. So solo, you play with 2 characters. You could probably play with more if you wanted to. And in the group, we had 4 characters. I played through the first 3 scenarios, did it twice, and I saw different things both times, which I thought was pretty cool, right? I interacted with things. The map laid out in different ways both times that I played. So it's from a replayability perspective, it seems like it has some pretty high replayability.
It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome that it switches up like that. And one time I was climbing a tree, and then the other time you're going down into some spiral staircase thing, and another time you're meeting a hobbit in a dark corner, or by a fire.
You say there were a couple of actions that were the same action, but you got completely different results. Yeah, depending on which campaign you were playing in, right?
Yeah, exactly. So experiencing different things. You're experiencing different things if you have successes to a skill check, as opposed to failing a skill check, and it takes you branching in a different way. And that was really cool. I like that.
My favorite skill check fail was when Logan tried to jump and hide in the bush and failed.
None of us could successfully hide in the bush. Right? Yeah. That's one thing I thought was cool and I liked about it.
That was actually one of the things that I was going to mention as well, because there is a lot of potential things to discover. And even if you have seen one thing and done that thing before, there are potential options for that thing to do different things, which is cool if you do it in a different way. And I don't know if like certain characters pop up in every version of the campaign or not. Like you can stumble out into different people. I stumbled into a random hobbit in a cave, right? Like, and I don't know if that was a product of the decisions we'd made up to the campaign at that point, or if perhaps is that a product because I was Bilbo and there was a hobbit in our group to go forward. Did that help in any way? So I think there's cool things like that can potentially happen in the game, which makes it, exactly like you said, Kevin, ripe for a lot of replayability, and you have a lot of opportunities to change things. I liked as well that, similar to that, in the you have a bunch of different like interaction points on the board, and there's not a whole lot of opportunity for you to be able to discover everything in a game. So like if you chose to go just for the objective, you wouldn't see a bunch of things. But if you try and go and interact with some of these other events and things that are happening on the board, there are other things for you to discover, which I thought was kind of cool, that the game kind of focuses you towards doing the objective, but there's enough for you to interact with different things here and there that you could choose to interact with different things every time you play.
Yep. We'll talk about some of the negatives. I think that's a good and a bad, but I do like how it gives you the opportunity to go to those encounter tokens and explore things on the map. Sometimes it was a big wah wah when you explore the thing and you're like, that's what I did this skill check for, and I got an inspiration token. I mean, it's adding flavor text. It's adding to your experience in the game, but it just seemed a little lackluster at times. But it's cool that you can do that and you have the opportunity to do that.
I like that not all the scenarios we played were super easy. There was some difficulty there in completing our tasks. One thing I did, I played as Gimli the dwarf, and I felt like I was playing as Gimli the dwarf. I thought the cards were tailored really well to him. Except for I was a little disappointed I didn't get to use the Poet's Heart card.
You tried.
I tried. But anytime there was a player token on the board that I was going to interact with, someone else did, or I was not in the right place. And so I didn't get to use my Poet's Heart card. But I was trying, because I wanted to hear some Gimli poetry.
I do like how you can pick the role for each character, and you can switch up the roles between adventurers. So for me, I was Gimli in my solo playthrough, and he was Gimli the musician, which I thought was pretty funny, right? And you can switch up between each adventure. You benefit from keeping the same role because you get experience for that role, and you can upgrade your cards, but you can upgrade multiple roles throughout the course of a campaign, which I thought was kind of a interesting part of the game.
Yeah. I loved that, like any good IP or thematic game, it created opportunities for us to quote Lord of the Rings. We had some laugh out loud moments. There were some just interesting combos of things that happened.
One other thing that I think we haven't mentioned that I thought is kind of cool is the battle map scenario, and how there's the adventuring part where you're exploring, and it's a kind of a zoomed out version, and then you can also have the more focused battle version where you can unsuccessfully hide behind a bush, or you can go to a fire, and the things that you interact with kind of affect your skill checks, affect your attacking. You can go purposefully to one place and have maybe a more strategic battle. that was kind of cool. The terrain, I'm using quotes, air quotes, that they give you is kind of, that's a bush. It's a green blob,
That's a boulder.
That's a boulder.
It's a nice boulder.
This is a wall.
I mean, they could have doubled the price and added 3D features, but
yeah, I mean, I understand.
It's already pricey. So.
I understand why they did it, but it was just not, it doesn't look the greatest, but it's kind of a cool concept that you're zooming in for a battle.
I loved that battle
I
map.
liked the different scenarios.
It changed it up as well. So it's not super samey from scenario to scenario. It adds a little bit of diversity in what you're playing and how you're playing things, and the way that you operate is going to be different based off of the style of map that you're interacting with. And I thought that was pretty cool. One thing that I really wanted to point out, though, is that this is a cooperative game, right? And people, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, know that I'm not necessarily the biggest cooperative fan.
You hate them
You're
so
not a team
bad.
player.
Yeah, it's got to be it. Those are all the things that are things. But one of the things that when I play cooperative games that I really enjoy having in a game is the ability to make sure that players have individual value that they're adding. So they're not my role, my cards, what I have in front of me is not just the same as somebody else right next to me. And well, I can accomplish this regardless. I was Bilbo the burglar, and it lent to me doing specific things for the group. Like I had a specific purpose that nobody else in the group really did. So I had to go and do different things that others wouldn't do. I had to run through battles to get to certain points on maps, to be able to interact with things so that I could help fulfill the main objective. And Gimli had to go through and make sure he was battling well. Aragorn had to go and
I was being the captain.
Be the captain,
Yeah.
and if he kept his group together,
complacent.
it helped overall.
I was an all-star captain.
And cocky.
I was an arrogant captain.
You were.
That was my weakness, but yeah.
But it lent, I think, to the experience of everybody had roles and things that they had to do. And there were things that were optimal for their player to do that wasn't optimal for me to do. Yeah. So you got the opportunity to be like, oh, well, Gimli needs to go next, or Legolas needs to go next because they can handle this before I go in there. So, for example, like Legolas has the opportunity to shoot at a distance, meaning that Legolas doesn't have to go into the hex or the square where enemies are. And if Legolas can clear out those enemies, then somebody else can travel through without having to.
If he can't, then they attack a Gimli who's in the spot and takes all the damage.
Right. But it creates these moments in which you have decisions to make that make sense to tactfully go through and make sure that you're doing things optimally.
Yeah, no, I think there was some good discussion there round to round. Which player should go first? What should we do? What is everybody else kind of doing? Yeah, that was good. Are we ready to talk about some of the negatives?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's jump into a few of those.
Well, I'll just go just kind of chaining off of what we were just talking about. One is this game dragged because of some of those discussions and because of some of the app interactions, and it just felt slow at times. One of the times we played it, I brought my War of the Ring cards to sleeve because I knew there's a lot of downtime during this game. Tyson, you talked about how each character had their individual type of roles and actions that they were more focused on. I remember at one point, I felt like you said, Bilbo, you were pretty bored with Bilbo's.
Well, so that was the other side of the coin that I was going to talk about. Absolutely. That while I have a specific objective and things that I can accomplish, the problem with that is sometimes it's very clear what I'm supposed to do, and I don't get to necessarily do some of the exciting and fun things
Just
that I
go
want to
hack
do.
some words,
like battling. Or,
I think I used my my dagger like 2 or 3 times the whole time we played, and I was like, well,
and you had Pierce. I mean, you could have gotten right.
I did.
You did
I
it
had one experience that the big bad was there, and it was thematic. I got to go in and I used my Pierce, and
you got through that armor,
and
stabbed that orc in the heart,
and it helped. But,
it did. You contributed.
But yeah, exactly, Tyler. You can be pigeonholed into a specific decision, and it may not like. There's not a whole lot of thought around that, and it's like, well, that's the optimal play for me. Right,
you got to play your role and just be a team player and go hide in the corner with your Hobbit friend.
I don't know if it's just me or if you guys also picked up on this. While we were talking about the positives, you could kind of hear it in our voices that
there was some negatives to go along with it.
But
there's a lot of negatives, and also some of those were kind of a little bit of a stretch, right? I don't know.
Yeah. My main problem with the game is I don't get that epic feel. I don't get the narrative just wasn't engaging. There weren't those experiences playing that were memorable experiences.
And we had Lord of the Rings music playing in the background.
We tried. We tried.
Lord of the Rings, right?
And like you mentioned, Tyler, it drags on. And when you get to the end, like we played a scenario where I didn't think we were going to win, and we ended up winning.
And it just happened.
And my thought was like, oh, I'm kind of glad it's over. Not, that was amazing. That was epic.
Right.
What's next?
We squeaked out a victory. What's next in this story? I want to go play again. It was like, we've been playing for 2 hours, and I am glad it's done, and I don't have to go collect one of those stupid plants to give to this lady. Spoiler alert, sorry. I can be done with this game and move on to something that is a little bit more exciting.
Yeah.
And I draw the comparison, and we talked about this before, Cthulhu Death May Die. That is a game that is similar. It's a dungeon crawler. It's not a campaign game, but it tells a story in a way that is so much better than this game. And it creates experiences and cinematic moments that blow this game away.
Yeah.
And there's really no comparison. So it just doesn't create those moments for me. And that's my biggest issue.
Ultimately, though, I don't think that it does a bad job delivering a narrative and delivering an experience in what it's doing. But I think it's compounded negatively by the fact that you put on the Lord of the Rings theme to this, which is an epic, which is a fantastic and great experience that we all have, as we have already discussed in this episode, have very important and significant memories tied to, and it doesn't deliver any of those in the experience while playing this, or at least it didn't for me. And so it putting that Lord of the Rings theme on it almost, in my mind, kind of detracts from what the game is doing.
And especially when you have combinations with, Bilbo's with Legolas,
Right.
with Gimli, with Gandalf, not Gandalf, with Aragorn. Like, why isn't it just Frodo?
Right.
And then, I would have almost loved a campaign where we're following the Fellowship, and everything doesn't have to happen exactly. I don't want everything to happen exactly as in the movies or in the books, right? Like, it can deviate from that, but how cool would it have been if we're fighting through the mines of Moria, and if we were,
Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yeah, Amon Hen. All these cool climactic moments. And instead we have this weird combination of characters going around the countryside.
Or characters we have no affiliation
with no real purpose other than somebody showed up on the map and now we're trying to find them. And we're chasing them.
To be fair, like we mentioned, we got through 3 adventures.
This is true.
That's about all I could stomach, though.
Yes.
I have no desire to go and see where that story goes. There could very well be a huge payoff at the end. There could be. I don't know, because we haven't played through it. But the game didn't pull me in enough to make me want to go find out if that payoff exists.
Right.
Well, and that brings up one of the, if not the biggest concern for me about the game, is the core mechanisms used in the game. What you're doing on your turns is not all that engaging. Okay, I'm doing these skill checks, which is akin to skill checks in either Arkham Horror or any version of Arkham Horror, Elders. Yeah, exactly. All of those. It's similar to those, but it does it less efficiently, I think, than any of those games. And you're just going and flipping cards to see what happens. And I don't feel like there's a whole lot of mitigation that I can do. There's some
can manipulate
granted,
it a little bit.
and and you can set it up to your favor. But doing that is not like a rewarding experience. It's like, again, it's the optimal, obvious decision to make in this game. I'm doing this because, well, obviously, I want to have better chances, so I'm going to put this card here. I'm going to stack my decks with successes. I'm going to prepare cards that are going to help ensure I get more successes, and then I'm going to hope I don't get no successes.
There's some decisions, right? Because the success cards have better actions that you can only use when you prepare them. So there were certain scenarios where I'm like, okay, this success card gives me strike 3, which allows me to do damage immediately. Okay, maybe I'll prepare that card instead of ensuring that I get a success. There are some of those decisions, but they're not that interesting.
Yeah, right. That's the problem. I mean, there are decisions. I'm not claiming there are no decisions to make, because there absolutely are.
They just don't. They're not interesting.
But yeah,
to me, there are stacks of decks on this table when the game's set up, and I felt like we barely even touched some of those. And maybe would have started to get to explore some of those decks more if we would have kept playing a little bit longer. But why are we not getting a taste of those much earlier on to grab us and pull us in and make it exciting to
make you feel better and more powerful?
Like I collected another lore on the map that I can't spend until we get like 20 more of it.
So that's the thing. Like, the way you upgrade your items is through lore, and you get lore by exploring the map and completing things. We are into our 4th game, and we did not have enough lore to upgrade a single item yet. That is a problem in my book, because you want to feel powerful. You want to feel like you're progressing, and you're getting these piddly experience points. You get 3 as far as I can see in the scenarios we played, you get like 3 if you fail, you get 4 if you succeed, and you can upgrade 1 skill card. 1 card is new in your deck for the next game.
Right.
That is a problem in my book, because I want to be advancing and getting cool stuff quickly. And if it takes me 4 games to get
5 games to get a new card,
I'm like, that's not exciting to me.
And it's not like we're board game noobs. Like, we figure out strategy pretty quickly, especially as a collective group. Like,
right. Yeah.
And on top of that,
there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, I don't think that we weren't doing things in at least in the last scenario we played. I feel like the app a number of times said, "Hey, you've acquired more lore. Hey, you've acquired more lore."
It did,
and we did it. I felt like, we're going to do really well. We're going to end up being able to do some stuff with this lore, and it's going to be really exciting. But it came to that point after we finished our scenario, and Kevin, you were like, "All right, do we have enough to get lore?"
What's everybody's items at? What's the lowest item? 25. We have 20.
And we're still like 5 points away from getting any change for anybody at a minimum. And some people were even higher than that to get anything.
And maybe if we explored the whole map, we could have got a whole ton of lore. But the game doesn't allow you to do that.
No.
The game says you have an objective, you need to do this, and if you don't do it, your threat's going to go up and you're going to die. And it forces you towards the objective. It doesn't allow you to go search the map and get all the cool things and get the lore and the trinkets and everything. We had 1 trinket in 3 games, and it was a torch that blew out
almost
the first round every game. Right? We didn't even get to use that thing, because the cards, the fear card or the damage card that came up says you lose a trinket or something.
Yeah. Regardless of whose possession it's in, which was something that was weird to me, because you can get a fear card and Gimli can be holding the torch, Bilbo can be on the complete other side of the map and get the fear card that says remove the trinket, and it's,
hey, Gimli, I'm scared. Blow out your torch.
That it has all been in vain.
Yeah, a little thematic disconnect there.
Yeah. So I don't think we want to harp on this game because there are good things about this game, and I think there are, like, it's, if you get the opportunity to explore it, maybe take a chance. I don't know that that's what I'm going to do, but let's go into our final thoughts maybe and talk about what our individual final thoughts on this game are. Tyler, the chuckling suggests that maybe you want to start this final thought.
I mean, I'll kick it off. So
Final thought and rating, right?
I don't sound like a jerk when you guys keep harping on it, but for me, this game takes way too long to play. Maybe that's because we had 4 players, but it just dragged on and on. It did not create epic moments for me. I don't like to always consider this if I'm reviewing a game, but the price tag stands out. This is a very expensive game. It does not make me excited to go back to play it. There is one caveat to that. I would like to try it solo and see if it is a fun solo experience, but then you miss out on some of those laugh out loud moments when Gimli's climbing up a tree or
dodging into a bush, whatever.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
like Legolas, the most tiptoey elf, can't hide in a bush. Come on, right?
It did create some moments that were pretty funny.
Yeah,
I agree.
So yeah, you miss out on that if you play solo, but with the gameplay 10 times faster solo. And maybe that's enough to make it a fun experience for me where I would like to go back and play through the campaign. I'm not going to buy Kevin's game for that experience.
Well, come on, it's for sale.
My son was interested.
Logan loved it.
He loves it.
He loves it.
And I think your brother-in-law loves it, right?
He likes it. I talked to him over the weekend. He was frustrated with a few things about it, but he played through the whole campaign and said it was great. So
anyway, back to my final thoughts. It was a miss for me. If this was a $50 game, I might give it a higher rating, but maybe not. Maybe if I had more plays, it would raise the rating. Maybe that's my shortcoming is not playing this enough and getting to a certain point. But I feel like we invested a lot of time and the payoff did not come early enough or soon enough. We rate on a scale of 1 to 5, 0 if it's a game worth burning. That hasn't happened yet. For me, what is your scale, Tyson? 1 is terrible, 2 is mediocre, 3 is average, 4 is good, and 5 is amazing. For me, this is a 2. And that's the lowest rating I've given up to this point on the podcast for a feature review game. When we decided we had enough plays and we weren't going back to it, that was like a moment of relief for me that we can start playing some awesome games that we need to get to the table and that we want to get to the table. And I had high hopes for this game. I'm not going to lie. Like, I had high hopes for it, and it was a disappointment for me.
So I have the perspective of a one-player experience. I was bored playing it one player. It was a similar feeling to playing it with multiple people. And I probably enjoyed it more with multiple people because we could, like you said, Tyler, have the table talk around the game, joke around about, like you said, like Gimli, he can't climb trees because he's a dwarf and he doesn't have any dexterity, which was a little bit infuriating for me because I needed to have dexterity to advance the story. And this, anyway, one player was not any better than a multiplayer in my book. For similar reasons that you didn't like the game, Tyler, I also struggle with. It didn't create epic moments for me. It dragged on. It just wasn't interesting to play. And I felt the same way. I was just kind of waiting for it to be over so we didn't have to go back to it. That sounds very harsh, but that's just the feeling that I had playing the game. Don't want to harp on it too much. just wasn't my cup of tea. It's not a game I'll go back to. As far as a rating goes, 2 was mediocre. 1 was what?
Terrible.
I would adjust up a little.
I don't think it's terrible.
That. Yeah.
As weird as it is, in the back of my mind, I'm a little interested to see where the story's going, right? Like, I've thought about that before. I'm like, oh man, okay. But I'm not interested enough to play the game again. So I think it lands at a 2 for me. It's not terrible. It's mediocre. There were a few experiences in there that was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it kind of caught me off guard a little bit what happened. But I think it's a solid 2 for me.
Yeah. So I've gone back and forth on what I would be rating this game. And I think I have a slightly different experience than either of you because I joined the campaign after it had started, meaning I got to play the battle scenario first, where the map was different. And that experience I was really enjoying, and I got to be Bilbo and sneak past some orcs and go and attempt to do something. I had to try and open a door that just was not opening for me. And I just kept hitting it. Yeah. And it wasn't working. I was like ticking away at it. And I was like, I'm going to get it this time. And I wouldn't get it. And while that was frustrating, it was funny. And like, it was a fun experience. There were some moments like being able to get the Pierce effect at that same scenario and put at my maximum amount of damage on the boss at that time. And there were some twists in the narratives that I didn't see coming that made it interesting to me. It was that first play was the highlight of my experience, though. Everything from there became less exciting to me, and it sounds like the stuff that I missed out on at the start of the campaign is more in line with the stuff I felt towards the end, or our end of the campaign. We didn't finish it, obviously, and so to me, I feel a little conflicted because I feel like there is potential good for this in this game. And like you said, Kevin, there in the back of my head is I want to know where this narrative is going, but I'm not compelled to do the work to get that information. Like, I almost would rather just read a synopsis of what's going on in this campaign and get that out of it to understand if that would change. But I don't know. This is a hard one for me. It plays too long, I think, like Tyler was saying, and I think that ultimately there's a lot of things that I don't really enjoy from this game.
He sounds conflicted.
I am conflicted.
You suffer. I see it day by day. Are you sure you do not suffer needlessly?
I am very conflicted because originally I wanted to rate this as a 3. I wanted to say this is an average game because I think this
could be a 4. Is that what you're saying?
That is not what.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
Going.
Oh, you're going the other way.
I'm going the other way. But like, at the end of the day, I don't have a desire to come back to the game and play the game, and especially if this group isn't going to be playing the game, I have zero desire to go find a way to play this game on my own, to play it solo and get that experience. So with that in mind, I think I have to settle on a 2 because that, to me, a mediocre game is a game that I'm not going to seek out any experience to play, and I probably won't play it except in very rare circumstances. So at the end of the day, even though I originally was thinking it was going to be a 3, I think I have to settle with this game being a 2 for me.
So
2s all around.
What did we do wrong? Because this is ranked.
We are outliers, I know.
95th overall.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's an 8.0 out of 10. I mean,
maybe,
what are we missing?
Maybe some listeners could let us know what, if you're a huge fan of this game and there's something that we're missing. Like we've mentioned, we haven't obviously played through the whole campaign. If there's something we're missing, let us know because we're not seeing it. And I really, like you mentioned, Tyler, I really wanted to love this game.
Yeah.
I never go into a game saying I want this to be a bad experience, right? I want every game I play to be the best game I've ever played.
Me too.
And especially when it has this theme around it, it's like, oh, I want this to be awesome and knock it out of the park.
There's tons of expansions, some of them also very expensive. I was excited for this. Yeah. I've almost bought this game multiple times.
Same.
And the only thing that kept me from buying it was that you owned it.
Yeah, well, now you have your chance.
Well, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
If Logan starts mowing some lawns, then maybe he can buy it from you. But
I wonder if it's partially a group dependent thing. Right?
I wonder that too. I wonder,
maybe.
And because we kind of all synergize in our feelings,
it snowballed a little. Maybe I don't know. Like,
because Logan did like it a lot, and I wonder if there was one other person in our group who was really enjoying it. We would have been like, oh yeah, let's play it.
But I mean, Ben played it, and I don't think he loves the
theme isn't for him,
but he didn't seem to be in it at all.
He did not.
Did Mark play
Dan
it?
played it.
Dan played.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think Dan was really into it.
He wasn't like on the edge of his seat.
No.
It just
maybe it's just a group dependent thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, with us being kind of the outliers there, I mean, if you've listened to us and you like the things that we like and don't like the things that we like, maybe this is helpful, but maybe if you don't, this is also helpful in helping you understand that, hey, this may be a game for you, and since everybody else seems to like it too.
And it really, though, if you do love this game, like, tell us what we're missing, right?
Yeah, join our Discord and join the episode channel and tell us what you think, because yeah, if we're missing something, let us know. And maybe, just maybe, we go back and revisit. Or next year in our recap.
Yep.
We can, maybe play it again or something. I don't know. But
so I think with that said, it wraps up our review of Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth.
We talked a lot about different Lord of the Rings games in this episode. I think it would be appropriate if we went back and just kind of the ones that we have played individually, which ones we like the most and where we would kind of rank them. For me, and there are a ton of other Lord of the Rings games out there that we have not played or that we didn't discuss on this episode. But for me, the ones that I love the most, War of the Ring is
number one.
Yeah, it's number one. And I hate to say that after just one play, but I feel like there's a ton to explore there. And I had a great first play. I can't wait to be the Free Peoples, to utilize the Fellowship and trying to get the ring to Mordor. There's going to be some epic plays there in the future, and it definitely has the potential. So I've only played it once, but it's number one for me. I think after that, I probably would put the LCG. Like I've said, I've only played it solo, but it's creates some epic moments. I feel like I'm in Middle-earth. It's just fun. It's awesome. After that, Love Letter probably, just because it's
Love Letter and
it's created some
cool
great
moments.
experience. Yep. I would then do Trivial Pursuit, Lord of the Rings. I briefly mentioned that. I have so many memories of that, playing with my family. And then Lord of the Rings Risk, and then Journeys in Middle-earth.
No. Risk beat out Journeys in Middle-earth.
Yeah, that game was a miss for me. So, as I've mentioned.
Yeah, so my number one would be the LCG. I've had so much fun with that. Mentioned I played it a few days ago. It was almost a nostalgic experience for me because I got it in 2011, and it brought back those same feelings when I played it before. The art is amazing. It will beat the snot out of you. But it's one of those games that, because it's so hard and because it beats the snot out of you, when you beat it, it is like a cheering moment, right? And it's just amazing. And when you can go, and if you lose a scenario, you can look at your deck and say, I lost because I didn't have enough questing cards in my deck. You can tweak your deck. You can go back and play again. And then when you win that scenario, you feel like you've accomplished something because you made that. You made that deck and it synergized well and you beat the game. And it's just a cool, fun experience. So that's number one for me. Haven't played War of the Ring. I would suspect that maybe that would be number one or possibly number two, but I haven't played that one. Number three for me is going to be, or two, I guess, would be Hobbit, Love Letter, the Hobbit version of Love Letter. That's just so much fun.
Battle of the Five Armies.
Yes, Hobbit, Love Letter, Battle of the Five Armies. There's probably other stuff in there I'm missing. Long title. But that one was awesome. I haven't played any of the other ones. Based on what you said, Tyson, I don't really want to play the Exit version. Trivial Pursuit sounds awesome. I would definitely play that. Risk can probably not be played. I'm okay not playing that one at all. So that's kind of, loosely how mine would shake out.
Say where you put Journeys?
I'm just not going to mention it. Journeys is below Risk probably as well. I'm probably, I don't know.
So I'm the one who's played the fewest Lord
and
of the
most
Rings
negative
games.
reacted ones, right?
And I have exactly. The ones that I have played are the ones that mostly I don't like. So I'm just going to rank the ones I have played. Because I think similar to what Kevin said, there are ones that I think I would like. I think I would love War of the Ring. I think I would love the Lord of the Rings LCG. But of the ones I've played, I'd have to rank it first, Hobbit. The love letter game of all the Lord of the Rings games I've played.
It's number one.
It's number one for me. Then after that, it gets real hairy in here, but probably it's going to be Risk. Lord of the Rings Risk number two, because next will be Journeys in Middle Earth.
Hey, it made top three. Made top three.
Made top 3 of 4. Because number 4 will be the Exit Lord of the Rings game. I just didn't
connect with it.
Even though I didn't love my experiences with Journey in Middle Earth, I would play Journey in Middle Earth 20 times before I played that Exit game again. So at the end of the day, if you want some games to play in Lord of the Rings world,
while you're watching the Rings of Power or not,
sounds like you need to play Hobbit, the love letter.
You shouldn't make fun. I was being serious.
So I think altogether that wraps up our Lord of the Rings segment of this episode. Let's talk instead about what we are excited about. And I realized that I said I wrapped up the Lord of the Rings part, but let me transition back to Tyler about what he's excited about.
So I know nothing about this, but I've already pre-ordered it because that's just how I do things sometimes. I am really excited for War of the Ring card game, which is set to come out here at Essen, I believe. I cannot wait for this. I just got the Mammoth war game, War of the Ring, off of my shelf of shame. I'm ready to add the card game to my collection and get it played. And I have zero doubt that this game is going to be amazing.
Number one Lord of the Rings game. Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Could knock off War of the Ring.
Well, Monopoly, Lord of the Rings is still out there, but.
Right. Okay. Temper our expectations here.
I'm super glad that you ended up pre-ordering this one because this was one that I was very curious about. But again, it's that 2-player camp that I couldn't feel confident in getting it and then getting it played. And so I'm glad you did. And it's a condensed potential playtime of War of the Ring, the board game.
Down to 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not much.
Oh, it's 90 minutes to 2 hours for a card game?
Yeah.
Wow.
But still, maybe I'll get a chance to play it because I've wanted to play War of the Ring for a long time and I want to play this. So maybe this has a better opportunity to get to the table. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'm also excited to continue watching Rings of Power. I said that with straight face too.
You did. And I almost believed you.
There are things I like about the show, The negative elf sideburns are not one of them.
And that's all you can see now, right? It's just this.
It's true. You can't unsee it.
Mole, 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 mole.
Mole, 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 mole.
And I have lots of criticism, but I don't want to ruin for
let's
someone
go to what,
who has not seen it. So
let's go.
But I am excited to continue watching it to see where it goes.
I am as well. But what I'm most excited about coming up in the board game world is Mind Clash. One of our favorite publishers recently announced that they opened pre-orders for a game in a line they're calling Mind Clash Play Games. This is the first game of their Mind Clash Play series or line. What they say about Mind Clash Play is this. They said, our goal with Mind Clash Play is to condense the thematically rich and deeply immersive gameplay that we are known for into games that are more accessible and smaller in scale. One of the biggest complaints I think that we've had with Mind Clash games is that they can be hard to table because the amount of stuff that's there, the amount of time it takes to set them up and play them can be daunting. We love Anachrony, and that's probably on the lower scale of play time.
I think Septima is a step in the right direction.
I think so too, but that's not within this Mind Clash Play series. That is a shorter play time and more accessible potentially, but it's not what they're going for here. What game I'm talking about is a game called Astra. And Astra is they're calling it a game of constellations, tactics, and bidding for 2 to 5 players. And I like bidding games. I like constellations. I love astronomy style stuff. I've talked about Search for Planet X and in a previous episode and kind of what that brings to me. So this was kind of exciting to me. There's not a whole ton of information on it. There's a few how to play videos and first look videos and things like that. And honestly, I didn't go super in depth on that, but because of the price of this and what it was offering, I and who it was being published by, I went ahead and I pre-ordered this game, and it's supposed to come out around Essen time. So sometime next month and a half, something like that. Hopefully I'll be getting a copy, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I also ordered it. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure Mind Clash is listening, right? Don't stop making the big, heavy, complex games, right?
I'm not worried about that.
No, I'm not worried about that either because those are amazing. And I'm very excited for their future games that are big and complex. But I'm also excited for these smaller ones that are a little bit quicker play times. That's awesome.
I love the idea.
Yeah, I love the idea.
Mind Clash does such a good job at marrying theme and mechanic in a way.
Production quality.
And the production quality is exceptional. Yeah, I'm excited for this because of all of that.
Well, I'm excited for expansion number 15.
Oh my God.
That's right. 15 for Dominion. I believe
there's better deck builders now.
I believe they said that they were going to stop expansions about 3 or 4 expansions ago, and they're just going strong. But I'm always excited for a Dominion expansion.
Money talks.
I mean, any new cards that you can play with, it's fun. I've talked about it a lot. We play this game over Zoom with Matt, my brother-in-law, and whoever he has over at his house at the moment, And it's a great game for that, and it's fun to explore the new cards. So I'm excited for that. Another game that I'm excited for.
Double
This is a twofer. This is a game that I just played over the weekend, and it is the Taco Bell Party Pack game. Who doesn't like Taco Bell? This game, if you haven't seen it, it comes in this it looks like a party pack that you would get from Taco Bell. It's got like little Dorito looking chips. You're trying to feed people's cravings. Obviously, it's not a deep game, but it's actually a
cereal games.
It's actually decent. It's got a little bit more strategy than a cereal game. It's actually a decent game. We had a lot of fun with it. A little bit tongue in cheek that I'm bringing that one up, but it was actually quite a bit of fun. Matt got that for me a few months ago. We broke it out and played.
Nice.
If you're a Taco Bell fan, check it out.
It's the only time you'll have Taco Bell and not need to
And
head directly for the toilet.
This is a true statement.
Bowel syndrome. This is the way that you can get your Taco Bell fix.
That's right. That's right. There you go. There you go. So run out and get it before it sells out.
Now, were you eating Taco Bell when you played this?
No, Taco Bell was
like
not. It was not available. We did have
the bell constantly chiming in the
Wait, this
background.
seems like you know how people talk about playing like Carcassonne and Carcassonne, or Clans of Caledonia.
Take this to Taco
You need to
Bell.
go take this to Taco Bell.
It's a destination
Play in a
game.
lobby.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, this game got even better.
Wasn't there like a Doritos game that came out too recently from Pandasaurus?
I don't know.
A Doritos game?
I can think of the Eggo game for like Stranger Things. Like they had the Eggo waffles.
I wanted this to be at Origins, and it wasn't. They just had a picture of it. Nacho Pile from Pandasaurus Games.
Oh, okay.
And it was comes in a bag.
Insta-buy, a bag game.
A resealable bag, but
okay. Yeah.
want this game. It's a little pricey at $20, but
$20.
I don't know what it does.
You're gonna eat the pieces.
It's possible.
Now that is true. I want to play the Taco Bell game with Tyler and see how many
Bite marks
cards
you
he
get
actually
in your
eats.
card.
Ooh, it's a Diablo sauce packet card.
One time, and the eggs were shaped exactly like peanut M&Ms. And I was into the game. I'm sorry. I replaced your piece.
You ate like
Enough.
4 of them before you even realized it. This story's going to get better and better. Yeah, exactly.
I think that is about what we're excited about, right?
Yeah, I think it's probably enough.
Yeah. I think this has gone
This has gone on long enough. Yeah, right.
It's time to, we're getting into the extended edition of Return of the King that just keeps going and going.
You know what? We could do extended versions of our podcast.
The extended.
They're already long enough.
Right, but we record a lot more than actually makes it, so.
Patreon.
The extended edition. Lord
this is the unedited version. Just put it out as as we record.
I think people would stop listening to us.
I think so too. It definitely would be a PG-13. So
especially when Tyson gets his innuendos going.
That was all his bit
today, but
and that was completely an accident.
If we could revisit
to
sleeve or not to sleeve episode, and we aired some of that content, we might get banned from the airwaves.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
But
be
the accidental innuendos that were thrown out was just, it had us on the floor rolling around laughing.
Yeah, none of it was on purpose. It was, and it just kept compounding.
And it did not stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the epitome of digging yourself in a hole, because like every time I try to get out, it just
every word that came out was like
worse.
No.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't breathe for a good 30, 45 seconds. I was struggling for air. I was laughing so hard. But this is a family show.
Yep. We keep it clean.
That's
what we do.
Speaking of the thresholds, this is the threshold for this episode. So
transition.
Hey, nice job.
I didn't interrupt it.
They're getting better.
I like how we don't even try.
No, I don't try at all. I'm terrible at them.
And Tyson tries, and I either interrupt him.
The other option is I make a good transition, and then you get hung up on the fact that I make a good transition. And so it doesn't actually do any transitioning.
Yeah, because he always sees like, hey, that was actually a good one. And then you completely ruin it.
Yeah. That's true. So that about wraps up this episode. We hope you enjoyed your journey to Middle Earth with us.
Smeagol, Smeagol, why are you crying, Smeagol?
It's a little creepy, I'm not going to lie.
That's
good.
That's not an audio clip. That is our very own Tyson.
Or we had Andy Serkis join us. Well done, Tyson. Well done.
I wish it were Andy Serkis.
That would be great.
Next time we do a Lord of the Rings episode, if we do that in a year or two, I want you to be in character Smeagol the whole podcast.
The whole episode?
Yeah. Every
Tyson,
game
how do you feel about this game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like Patreon content right there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You take your audio cut home and you're going to re-record yourself, everything you said word for word in Schmiegel's voice.
For this episode.
Yeah. And then we'll throw it up on the Patreon that we don't have set up, and boom.
Let's see, let's see if people comment on the Discord. If we get how many comments? 3.
That's a stretch.
I'm not doing
that is a stretch. Hey, that's a stretch.
It's
2-hour episode.
It is.
It is growing. And we're excited.
We're
coming up on the end of our first year of publishing podcasts, and we're happy and we're excited about where it's going. So
yeah. Thanks for everybody that's listening.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more Longest Turn in your life, please check us out on Instagram. Also, be sure to check us out on Board Game Geek, where you can join our guild, Guild 3947, and check out our blog, where we post all our show notes and occasionally post more detailed reviews. If that's not enough for you, we have a Discord server. If you want to play a game with us on Board Game Arena, join our Board Game Arena group, The Longest Turn. Until next time, thanks for listening. See you later.
Goodbye.
Tootsies. Check real quick. Boom. Mic 1.
Shakalaka.
2. Bye. Mic 2. Check.
Boom.
Oh, come on, Tyson. Project.
Yeah.
Jeez. Do what you normally do.
Trust me, I miss the homeland more than any of us.
Oh, the mocking begins. I knew you were going to hate it. I knew it.
I
knew
did
it.
too.
I knew
I
it.
did too.
I knew it.
Oh man, I can't English today.
We're Lord of the Rings
collectively individual Lord of the Ring fan.
Yeah, words are hard.
Yep.
Yeah. My rule book
We've
is
had
only
one breakfast, yes. What about second breakfast?
11sies?
Afternoon tea?
No one tosses a dwarf. I cannot make the distance. You have to toss me.
And they call it a mine. A mine.
I don't think I've ever
No, but I don't know. I don't think you should. You could. Okay, continue, Tyson. I don't know what's happening right now. We really want to hear about your game.
Yeah.
At least one of us does.
Yeah.
Rules overview by Kevin. That's not happening right now.
This is. Thank you, Kevin, for those rules overview. That is going to.
You said for those rules overview.
Thanks, Kevin, for the rules overview of Journeys. Oh my gosh.
It's like when Pam passes the phone to Michael and she's like, I'm still on.
Yeah. And then he resets.
She lets him practice a couple times.
Yep. And then he does normal stuff. Okay. Go ahead, Pam.
Yeah. All right.
Or go ahead, Michael.
Still me.
Michael.
We talked a lot about Lord of the Greens.
Lord of the Greens.
Frings and
Frings.
This is an expansion? I don't even know what's...
That meme was awesome. If you want to check it out,
old
join
man.
our Discord.
Yeah, join our Discord. You go to that channel, you may be scarred a little bit.
Yeah.
But go check it out.
Yeah, it's an awesome Gandalf meme. Meme.
Mean? Do you say mean?
Yeah, I did.
Lord of the Frings meme.
Yeah, Lord of the Frings.
Words.